guys, it's Elizabeth Lyons. Today we're going to talk a little bit about pricing. We're not going to talk about organization as evidenced by this, but maybe we'll get to that another day, although that's really never been one of my great fortes. So we might never get to that, and I might refer you to somebody else on that. But I can talk about pricing. Okay, now I left my notes about pricing in the kitchen because the organization and all that, so I had to go back and get those, but I'm back. Okay, so pricing and how to price your products when you are an artisan or when you've manufactured something is a huge discussion point, especially because there are all these discount sites available now. It's kind of the same topic of discussion came up when all those couponing sites came out. Because the question became, okay, if you're going to the grocery store and you're buying $650 worth of groceries and spending zero, what is happening to the companies and how they're having to price their products? But that's a whole different discussion. So anyway, the bottom line is no matter what industry you're in, how you price your products is a point of discussion. And it's something that people get really wrapped up in and really confused by and almost paralyzed by. And so I thought it would be interesting to talk that through. So let's talk about being an artisan, whether you make jewelry, paper goods, whatever you make. Let's talk about it from the artisan perspective, not from the manufacturing perspective first. So in terms of jewelry, and a lot of people are hesitant to kind of give away their formula for how they price, but I don't understand that because that's how you learn. Number one, you take information from different people and how they do things, and if no one ever tells you how they do it and how it's done, how are you supposed to know? So here's basically how it works. You take your raw materials, and you add to that your labor. Now, let's talk about labor for a minute. Please, I beg of you, do not pay yourself $2 or $3 an hour. I beg of you. I understand that it's uncomfortable to put a value on yourself, and there are a lot of things you can take into consideration. When I was first doing this, I would ask friends of mine who were formally trained, who did this as their primary profession, who did it on the side, whatever. I asked them all flat out, what do you pay yourself per hour? And I took all those things into account to come up with my own hourly rate. So let it be what it's going to be and what you're comfortable with, but you have to pay the bills. So $3 an hour, no. So you've got your raw materials and your labor time. You also have your overhead. So if you rent space, you have to take that into account. If you have to drive, 40 miles to get to your space that you're renting, you have to take these things into account. Also, you need to take into account what kind of a profit you want to make off of your piece. So once you get all those numbers together, that's just what it costs you to make the piece. Well, how much do you want to profit on top of that? Some people use a percentage for that. They'll take 10%. Some people just look at a piece and they'll do a different number based on how well a piece does. And I find that that's a little bit more valuable of a way to go about it. You're going to have pieces that cost you far less to make, but are far more desirable than the opposite. And there's a fantastic business coach, and I'm just going to call her a business coach. She's actually a jewelry artist. Her name is Megan Auman, and it's Megan Auman, AUMAN.com. And I highly suggest that you look her up and subscribe to whatever she's offering. She's absolutely fantastic. She's great with giving away free and really valuable content. And one of the things that she put out there that I thought was really risky when she did it, and the more I've thought about it, the more I've realized how brilliant it is that she has a pair of earrings that she flat out publicized cost $5 in materials. And they sell for, I think, $105 because that's what the market will pay. So obviously her profit margin on that is much higher than a piece where the materials perhaps cost $10 and she's only charging $30 for the piece. But you have to kind of keep those things in mind, and that's something that just grows as you learn which of your pieces is more desirable, etc. The other thing you have to take into account is help. If you get to a place where you need to hire people, whether it's one person or 5 people to come in and help you with your business, you need to be able to pay them. Well, what are you going to pay them from? You're going to pay them from your profit. So you need to make sure that you're working that into your profit of your piece. Now, there is an area that people forget, and I touched on it a minute ago, which is market value. So don't just get to that place where you're like, okay, this piece is now costing me, with all those factors in place, $50 to make, so I'm going to sell it for $50. If the market will pay more than that for your piece, then you deserve to be able to charge more than that for your piece. Now let's talk about this in real world terms. So the baby industry is something that I'm familiar with because I have 1,000 children, but the $900 or $1,000 Orbit stroller. Now, do we really think that all of that stroller's components make it that much more expensive to produce than a Graco or whatever? Probably not. There are probably some bells and whistles on the Orbit that make it more valuable and make it cost more to produce. But on the grand scheme of things, people are buying a brand. They're buying an image. Same thing with Tiffany's if we're talking about jewelry. I know what silver costs. I know what gold costs. Anybody can find that out. When you have a product that's being mass manufactured and costs $80 to $100 in metal, and not a lot in labor because it's being mass manufactured, and it's selling for $1,000 to $1,500, it's doing so because that's what the market will bear. So these are really important things to keep in mind, and as you continue on with your business, no matter what your business is, keep an eye out when you're in the stores and look at pricing. Here's the thing that's funny. I have another product which is in the baby market, because again, 1,000 children, and it's the Hold a Baby on-the-go toy organizer. Here it is. Now, this is priced right now at $15. You have to keep your brand in mind when you're doing this. You have to keep in mind the company that you want to keep. So when we were pricing this technically people think of as a sippy cup holder. It's not a sippy cup holder. It holds board books, it holds stuffed animals, it holds blankets, it holds pretty much everything. So your child can't drop it or throw it. And that was my intent when I created it. I was seeing lots of sippy cup holders. Some of them were made well, most of them were not. And they're really comparatively inexpensive. You can get them for between $8 and $12 a piece. But they weren't working for me because they didn't do what I needed them to do. They didn't hold multiple items, they didn't hold books, they didn't hold blankets, they didn't hold stuffed animals. You could jury rig them on occasion, but it wasn't working great, and they weren't durable. So when I came up with the Hold It Baby, I wanted to place myself in a market with other products that are thinking outside the box, that are delivering higher quality, that are delivering a more sustainable product and a more lasting product and a more innovative product, and want to stick around and develop their brand because of that. So a company that I looked to when I was doing that was Boone, and I talked about Boone in my last video. They're brilliant. But if you look at their products, they sell all kinds of things for for more money. For example, their spoons. They have baby spoons. You can buy a 6-pack of Gerber baby spoons for, I think, like $2.59. One Boone spoon, which rhymes, is about $6. People pay it. Boone has a nightlight out right now that is the coolest thing ever. It's $80. I don't have a lamp in my house that costs $80, but they can't keep them on the shelves because they've delivered consistently. They've delivered a fantastic product. They've created a fantastic brand, and people want to own that. Same thing with Crocs, the shoes. When the Crocs came out, everybody copied it immediately. You could go into Walmart, not that I do that with frequency, and you could find Crocs for like $5, $6. And you'd think, well, why would I spend $30 on the real deal when I could spend $6 on this? And there's a reason. Number one, if you've ever bought that secondary product, you understand the reason. But number two, here's the thing, and this is the second thing to keep in mind with regard to pricing, and it's something that I learned from Megan Almond. If you literally cannot spend the $30 on the Crocs, the real thing, or the $6 on the Boone spoon, or the $15 on the Hold It Baby, you're going to buy the less expensive counterpart. But those competitors, if you want to call them that, are not taking your market from you. They're not your market to begin with. If someone is not able or does not value the quality, if they don't value the fact that you are sitting at this unorganized space, literally hammering art that they're going to wear on their body, if they don't value that, they're not your customer. So you can't look at everyone who is buying a lesser product as a customer that you've lost because your product is too expensive. And the last thing you want to do is bump your prices down. I used to joke when we were getting going with the Hold It Baby, we were having a hard time getting the word out and such, and we were getting some pushback because our price was a lot higher than the competitors, even though we were arguing vehemently that they aren't competitors. This is a completely separate product, a completely separate type of product that doesn't even exist yet. No one else has created anything like this. We questioned for a very brief period of time, is the price too high? And we dumped that really quickly because I made the argument that we could have priced this at 99 cents on our website and it would not have sold anymore. The issue wasn't the price. The issue was getting the word out about the brand, the quality of the product, the unique offerings that the product had, etc. That's your challenge. Don't keep bringing your price down thinking, if I bring it down, they will come. Number one, they probably won't. Number two, if they do, you have now pigeonholed yourself into being in this you've now completely pigeonholed your brand. Now you sell sterling silver rings for $8. And I saw that yesterday on a discount site and about fell out of my chair. It was a sterling silver ring and it was $8. And the materials cost more than $8. I mean, even if it's mass manufactured, and I could tell that it was just by looking at it. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, before I get whatevered, about mass manufactured products. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're an artisan and you're putting your time into the product, you have to be able to account for and pay yourself for the time, because the amount of product that you can produce in a day or a week is significantly different than if you're using machines to do it. So you have to take that into account. The third and final thing that I'm going to talk about today is the whole, what I call, and what Megan Almond calls, well, Megan Almond doesn't call it this, but she's the one who brought it to my attention. And so I call it this. It's the, but I couldn't pay for that syndrome. So I had a cuff bracelet about a year ago that I had priced at almost $300. And it killed me to do it. It killed me. That was the wholesale price too. That wasn't even marking it up, twice to compensate for retail, which is something we'll talk about in another video. It's a completely separate topic. Not really, but kind of. But I had just kept it at wholesale. I was just kind of launching my cuffs, and it may have even been more than a year ago. But it was a very detailed piece. It took me a lot of hours to do, and when I added all that up, that was the price I came up with. And it killed me, because I thought, right now, would not choose to spend $300 on that. I have 5 kids. I have other places that my money needs to go. So I was uncomfortable pricing it at that price, because I wouldn't do it. But the cuff actually sold, because here's the thing, you are not your own market always. You strive to become that, and I mean that in terms of how much you can or are willing to spend on a piece. If I had the money available, like sitting there, I absolutely would have spent it on that cuff. I absolutely would spend it on pieces there are a whole list of artisans whose work I value and am incredibly impressed by, and would spend the money to own their pieces. Just because you can't potentially spend that money right now doesn't mean that someone else will. So don't value and don't judge the value of your work based on what you can afford to pay for it. What you need to base it on is, what is your brand? What are you selling? Who are your competitors? Who do you want to be seen as being in their circle? So with the Hold It Baby, I don't want to be seen as being in the circle with these inferior products that break down the first time they go through the washing machine and look great and are cute, and they're cute. There's no getting around that they're cute. But it's a functional product. So does it perform the way that it's meant to? No, I don't want to be lumped in with those guys. I want to be lumped in with the Boons and not necessarily the Orbits, although I would love to see this thing hanging from an orbit. But I want to be lumped in with the brands who are known and who have built over years, and literally it takes years, a reputation for innovation, high quality, really thinking about their customers, connecting with their customers, caring about their customers. Those things are all really, really important to us at Hold It Baby. So that's something that's really important to put into your thought process when you're pricing, is who do you want to see yourself surrounded by? When people think of your brand and your product, who else do you want them to think of? Who do you want them to compare you to? Because Is it the brands that are selling for $5? Or is it the brands who are doing really, really well, doing really good things for the world, are really good people, are putting themselves out there, etc.? So comment below and let me know what your experiences have been with pricing, what challenges you've had, what questions you've had, what stumbling blocks you've come up against, and we'll address those in a future video, and we'll also talk about some more issues with pricing, branding, logo, etc. Have a great day.